It's still early enough to say good morning. My name is Stephen Fosgard. I'm the Vice President of Instruction at Alpena Community College, and I will be the host today. Presenting with us is Callan Eschenburg. He is listed. This is the SAE 2020 opportunities are good and plenty. Instead of a bio, Callan wrote a nice description of what he's doing. So Callan was born in 1985. Yeah, more like 2000. Callan's traveled the world. He is a wonderful scholar. He is a poet. He is a painter. He is a writer. He did that picture behind him. Mm-hmm. So since you didn't put anything, I'm just making things up now. But Callan has been with the state of Michigan for a short time. Prior to that, he was with the American Association of Community Colleges on their apprenticeship grant. And before that, I believe it was another state of Michigan grant, all on apprentices. He has been a member of the MIDA organization, serving multiple different roles. And we are glad that you are back from DC back to Michigan. So with $14.3 million in U.S. Department of Labor grant funding, the Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, LEO, is well positioned to help Michigan employers fill thousands of projected registered apprenticeship openings in high skill, high wage, in demand careers. Through this funding, the Michigan Registered Apprenticeship Innovation Network, MiRAIN, and the Michigan Youth Apprenticeship Readiness Network, MiYARN, will accelerate the addition of more than 5,230 MiRAIN and 1,024 MiYARN registered apprentices across the state. In this session, hear from LEO, apprenticeship partners, and grant recipients on their work to expand registered apprenticeships and registered youth apprenticeships across the state. Callan and your panel, I thank you for presenting today. I will chime back in at the 1/4 and the 5-minute mark before the end of the presentation.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Steve. And thank you for the bio. Some almost correct, but great memory on the history. Actually remember my resume better than I do. But the reason I didn't put a bio is because this session isn't about me. It's actually about all the people here and our overall State Apprenticeship Expansion 2020 grant, which includes the MiRAIN initiative and the MiYARN initiative. So as Steve kind of mentioned, a little bit of detail, just real quick overview. The Michigan Registered Apprenticeship Innovation Network, that is MiRAIN. The Michigan Youth Apprenticeship Readiness Network is MiYARN. Gotta love those acronyms. And those two together make up the SAE, or State Apprenticeship Expansion 2020 grant program. So as Steve mentioned, $14 million between the two, and in U.S. Department of Labor funding. Thousands of registered apprenticeship openings and positions will help fill those. Those exact numbers, 5,200 or 5,230 registered apprentices overall, and 1,024 of those youth registered apprentices as well. So a few pieces. We'll go through the session outline, a quick overview. We will talk about, we have 5 members here from our Regional Implementation Consortias, a panel that we can ask questions to as well at the end, but they'll talk a little bit about their specific parts of the project, and then again we'll have questions. If you do have questions, please throw those in the chat as we're going along, and either Stephen or I will find those and pick those up at the end. So real quick overview, I think through some of the previous segments, there's been some registered apprenticeship discussion. So hopefully everybody has a good grasp on it. But overall, what is registered apprenticeship? Really 5 components. So employer involvement, it is a job. Structured on-the-job learning, so on-the-job training, on-the-job learning, OJL, OJT. Also includes a classroom component, related instruction or related technical instruction, RTI. Rewards for skills gained, so as someone is progressing through the program, pay increases throughout that program, and then results in a national occupational credential. so the USDOL nationally recognized credential from the Department of Labor, and can include other credentials and certificates or even academic degrees as well. It is important to note that non-registered programs may have all of these, but they aren't structured through the Department of Labor and aren't guaranteed. Kind of another quick overview. So the idea of the SAE 2020 programs, both grants, is state level innovation and regional implementation. So we do have a relatively new Michigan Apprenticeship Advisory Board, and actually a few of our panelists serve on that as well. That board provides guidance, direction, and overall innovation and strategy at the state level. And then the implementation is actually carried out by the Regional Implementation Consortia, or the RICs as we call them. And each RIC is comprised of employers, organized labor. They have an Office of Apprenticeship, at least one ATR representative, secondary and post-secondary educational partners, Michigan Works Agency partners, including ASCs, and vocational rehabilitation organizations and other organizations. So each regional consortia is really made up of quite a few organizations coming together to implement that work. We have actually 12 regional implementation consortia through the SAE 2020 program. You can see listed alphabetically here, and then the new registered apprenticeships that they'll actually be working with or serving during this session. So all total through that side, the RIC side, is 3,720. But today we actually are privileged to have 5 of our RIC members here. So Jackson Area Manufacturers Association, Michigan State AFL-CIO Workforce Development Institute, Michigan Works Region 7B, who also partners with Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works, the Oakland County Workforce Development and Oakland County Michigan Works, and Upper Peninsula Michigan Works. So I'm going to turn it over to our first panelist, and we'll just ask them to give kind of a brief overview, about 3 to 5 minutes each on their project, and then we'll roll through to have some questions. And then again, if you have questions, please put those in the chat, and we will get to those near the end of the session. So Mr. Bill Rail, President of the Jackson Area Manufacturers Association.
Thanks, Callan. So our Regional Implementation Consortium is really focused entirely on youth apprenticeship expansion. JAMA for many years has been a Department of Labor registered apprenticeship intermediary, focused primarily on adult training, but we also partner with an early middle college that is run through our Jackson Area Career Center and is partnered with Jackson College and in the past Baker College. And JAMA has brought the school to registered apprenticeship component to that program, and we're using this regional implementation consortia to expand those opportunities beyond just the early middle college students to all of the students who are in the manufacturing cluster at our Jackson Area Career Center, and then in related CTE programs in Livingston, Washtenaw, Lenawee, Hillsdale, and Jackson County. So we're expanding to a 5-county region covering Region 9. We have a lot of partners, just like the slide says. I won't bore you with all those details. We're focused primarily on entry-level, global best technician level certifications, DOL certifications and apprenticeship, all of those competency-based and directly tied to and embedded into the K-12 programs at our regional career and tech ed centers, and then reaching out to multiple high schools that have feeder systems and building out the entire sort of ecosystem. That's it for me.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Bill. Next, Cheryl Sanford, the Chief Executive Officer for Michigan State Workforce Development Institute.
Thank you, Callan. Excuse me. We're really pleased to be part of the SAE grant and expanding registered apprenticeships in the state of Michigan. Our RIC is the Access to Apprenticeship, and we partnered with the building trades to continue the work that we've been doing with the trades for the last several years to help expand apprenticeship opportunities particularly for underrepresented populations, minorities, women, veterans, and youth. And we started, excuse me, this collaboration with our Access for All Apprenticeship Readiness program that started in Detroit and has since spread to Kalamazoo and soon Saginaw, Jackson, Grand Rapids, and Muskegon. So based on that partnership, it made sense for us to continue that work as part of this collaboration to expand that to other areas of the state. And our group is comprised of not only the building trades, but also workforce development specialists, community-based organizations, excuse me, and career and technical ed partners. So our goal is 440 registered apprenticeships in the building trades over the next 2 years. And as I said, we're really excited to be part of this collaboration.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Cheryl. Next, Natasha Allen, the Chief Operating Officer for Michigan Works Region 7B.
Thank you, Callan. We partnered with Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works to write this grant. We, in the past, had done a My Career Quest Middle Michigan event at which about 10,000 students attended to get hands-on experience with career exploration. And we wanted to take that further and really expand that to apprenticeships and highlight that as a career opportunity. And so our grant is kind of twofold. The first thing that we did is we are working with our CTE providers to align CTE curriculum with registered apprenticeship programs so that we can really look at the talent pipeline from beginning to end, and knowing that we want to keep the talent that we have, we want to keep some of that local, and that college necessarily typical 4-year degree isn't for everyone. And so we wanted to really expand those opportunities to those students that were in CTE programs and make it easier for employers to find apprentices through those programs so that they can get a lot of their related training instruction or even some of their on-the-job learning done at the high school level and lead right into an apprenticeship. And so we're really focusing on that. And we have, I believe it's 7 CPEDs that are involved in our grant and in our area. And so they're working right now on aligning curriculum that will hopefully lead to a MARC credential, the Michigan Apprenticeship Readiness credential that the state apprenticeship board is working on. And so hopefully it will lead into that is the ultimate goal. And then the other part of our grant is to really focus on underrepresented populations. So women, persons of color, people with individuals with disabilities, veterans, and returning citizens, and to really look at that as a talent pool for employers and getting them into registered apprenticeship programs. We have found that employers right now are really interested in registered apprenticeship programs because we have a talent shortage, and it's a great way to grow your own. And so I think it's a really ripe opportunity for apprenticeships in the state of Michigan.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Natasha. Next, Elizabeth Rivard-Weston, the Apprenticeship Success Coordinator for Oakland County Workforce Development.
Hi, thanks, Callan. So as Callan said, I'm Liz Rivard-Weston. I'm with Oakland County Workforce Development and Oakland County Michigan Works. The government agency oversees and manages the contracts of our 6 Michigan Work Centers across the county. So Oakland County Michigan Works is a single county region within the state. So the companies that we're serving are all located within Oakland County. For our state apprenticeship expansion grant, we are specifically focused on 4 main industries. So that is advanced manufacturing, construction, healthcare, and I just drew a blank, and IT. Sorry about that. So we also left a little bit of wiggle room for other maybe emerging industries that might pop up during the life cycle of this grant. And right now that's actually looking like early childcare development. So we're really excited to look at that industry as well. So we have a pretty ambitious goal. We're looking at connecting with about 150 or so employers to either expand their existing program or help them register a new program. We intend to serve 250 participants. About half of them will be underrepresented populations. And those populations we're focusing on are veterans, youth, people of color, returning citizens, folks with disabilities. And then outside of that, we're also looking at some new industry sectors. Our RIC is comprised of, well, actually, our RIC's kind of cool. We launched what we call the Oakland County Apprenticeship Task Force, or OCAT, in late 2020. So when the SAE opportunity came up, we really just kind of plugged our OCAT into the RIC model because it's essentially the same thing. So we have representation from Oakland schools, from the U.S. Department of Labor, the state of Michigan. We also have other partnership organizations like the Workforce Intelligence Network, who provide intermediary services, and our local community college, which is Oakland Community College. So that task force was really launched so we could combine our efforts to make sure that there wasn't a duplication in services and that we were all kind of leveraging each other's strengths. So we really found that SAE was the perfect opportunity to enhance that even more and kind of put some funding behind the activities that we're doing. So since we already had that OCAT put together, we thought it would be even more powerful to create a series of subcommittees. So we actually have 4 subcommittees of our OCAT, one of which is focusing on veterans, another on youth, another one on all underrepresented populations, and then the final one is focusing on the new industry sectors and the marks that Natasha just mentioned. So we've developed it in a way that we can provide a $1,700 reimbursement for apprenticeship training, and companies can either use that for the related technical instruction or for the on-the-job learning component of their apprenticeship program. And that wraps up the Oakland County SAE grant.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Liz. And our final panelist, Deb Brunell, Chief Strategy Officer for Upper Peninsula Michigan Works.
Well, good afternoon, and thanks for inviting me, Callan. It's nice to be here at the Trends Conference. So for UP Michigan Works, we have some unique challenges. We're very spread out. We have 15 counties and offices in 14 of them. And so that creates some challenges with pulling the businesses that are close enough to the schools to run youth apprentices. So we've committed to signing on 100 youth apprentices over the 2-year period and 100 adult apprentices. And the way we're doing that is by embedding our RIC into our CAC, our Career and Educational Advisory Committee. And what we've really been able to do is to get some legs within that CAC, because the hardest part about apprenticeships is connecting the businesses with the job seekers or the youth. And so the CAC helps us to do that. We also have, as a part of our team, a CTE person and our MySTEM director. And so with their expertise in the K-12 realm, it's really helped push us forward in the youth apprentices. And also we're adopting a model that was developed in Colorado and based on a Swedish model, actually. It's called CareerWise USA. And so it is a proven model in several states now that we will use to help us organize and market youth apprenticeships to the schools and to the students. And so we're getting that underway right now. And things are going really well. That's it. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Deb. And so everyone knows, I know Deb has to leave a little bit early. She's actually doing multiple things, multitasking today, hosting Director Corbin from actually Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity up in the Upper Peninsula. So she'll have to step out a little early, but we appreciate you taking time to be with us for the time you have this morning. I have a few questions that I'll ask the panel, but also if anyone in the audience has questions, please throw those in the chat. Actually, Deb, kind of to start with you before you have to jump off. You mentioned, the challenges of being in a rural and pretty spread out area and serving that population, but also some of the innovations bringing in multiple partners. Could you just speak a little bit more to kind of how you're bringing in those other organizations and kind of innovative models to work with that?
Sure. Well, again, I think, we were lucky to have a robust SEAC group that was willing to take action. And when the SAE opportunity came, we came together to make a plan. So it's been difficult, I'd say, because the area isn't used to the idea of youth apprentices. We've done a lot of adult apprentices. Companies are used to those traditional models with, plumbers and pipe fitters and electricians. But when this grant came around, we saw it as an opportunity to expand out of the traditional apprenticeship models and started really talking about that, utilizing our business services team and all of our partners, economic developers and others. And we've been really pleasantly surprised at the response there. We had, for example, a seamstress step up in Marquette saying she had a vision to start an apprenticeship program for seamstresses all over the United States. And it starts with one apprentice. And so we were really excited to start that. We do have a couple of businesses up here in the UP that do have sewing as part of their manufacturing processes. So that was pretty exciting. We also had a jeweler step up and say, hey, we could do a jewelry apprenticeship. So I think really looking at some of those non-traditional ways to provide a really solid opportunity for our youth. And as Natasha said, we all really want to keep our students, our young people here in the region and incent them with good paying jobs, because there are a lot of them, as we know right now.
Absolutely. Excellent. Thank you so much. And that actually leads into kind of doing a great job moderating for me. So thank you, Deb. But I was going to say, Natasha, kind of similar question as Deb mentioned, coming from an area that is a little bit more rural as well and trying to keep folks in. What promising practices have you seen, and challenges or barriers maybe as well?
I think one of our challenges was having employers understand what registered apprenticeships really are, that they're not only for the trades, but they are for almost anything. You can really almost make an apprenticeship out of almost any position. And so at Michigan Works, we actually created our own apprenticeship that our case managers go through, because we thought if we're going to talk the talk, we better walk the walk, right? And we really wanted to understand it. And so by doing that, we're really able to really hold the employer's hand through the whole process, which has been really helpful. I would say that that's probably a best practice that we have, is that we really partner that employer with our apprenticeship success coordinator, and have them work with USDOL, attend those meetings, and help write that Appendix A if they need to. And so, and understanding the language and being able to kind of be that interpreter between USDOL and the business, and to help them do that, especially right now where businesses are really busy, because they're where, people that normally don't wear a lot of hats are wearing a lot of hats because they don't have the staff. So even the bigger businesses that we found before had time to maybe serve on committees and do those types of things, they don't necessarily have that time. I mean, even to get them to attend a job fair right now is kind of hard, because they literally cannot get away from what they're doing to hire people. I mean, it's just kind of a crazy time. And so I think having our apprenticeship success coordinator in place has been really helpful. And we had partnered with a couple of our school districts on a Marshall Plan prior. And so we had already been talking to their CTE providers about career readiness and career pathways and what those look like. And so those relationships have really led into us being able to work closely with our CTE providers in looking at getting students to understand apprenticeships, the CTE teachers to understand that, and then really creating those pathways, because they want their students to have jobs right out of high school as well. So I think that those are some best practices that we've had here. And then challenges, like I said, getting employers to understand what that really looks like, and that it's really not that hard. Most of the work is actually up front, not after it. It's leading up to the apprenticeship, not after the fact. Rapids really isn't that scary, getting them to understand that it's really quite easy to navigate rapids. And then I think getting them to get past the point of interest. You know, we have a lot of interest, but really getting them to put some stuff on paper. And once they have that first meeting with USDOL, it goes very quickly. You know, maybe 1, maybe 2 meetings after that, they're virtual. It actually is a pretty quick process. It's just getting them to get that stuff on paper seems to be a little bit of a challenge. But our apprenticeship success coordinators have gotten pretty good at helping them write those things down. So.
Excellent. Thank you so much. No, that's perfect. And again, actually, both of your comments kind of lead into a question for Liz. So Liz, as the apprenticeship success coordinator on the panel, could you talk a little bit about your role and kind of what you do there, but then also touching on something Deb said about non-traditional. I know you mentioned, healthcare, IT, but then childcare. Could you talk a little bit about that as well, what you're seeing out in the field with non-traditional occupations and careers?
Definitely. So as the apprenticeship success coordinator, honestly, one of my main roles is kind of developing the framework of our programs so our business services representatives can integrate it into the work they're doing with our businesses. However, I too meet with companies, but typically when I'm contacted, it's when a company already has an apprenticeship program or they already know that's what they want. So I don't want to say those ones are the easiest, but those we tend to have a little bit more success with. The way that we've really leveraged our funding is when our business service representatives are doing fact finding with companies. We're hearing, just as everybody else is going to say, companies are having a really hard time finding people. So our big thing right now is companies need to cultivate their own talent. How do you do that? With an apprenticeship program. So we really try to use, kind of pair that together. So if you need people, think about the good people you already have and how can we develop a training program, registered apprenticeship program, to move those folks up within your company. And in terms of the new industry sectors, the childcare one is kind of interesting. It's kind of like the catch-22. The industry is struggling to find folks, and it seems, we haven't done an official study, so I want to be very clear on that. It seems that the wages may have something to do with that. But then on the flip side, because of, unfortunately, how folks were impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, folks can't afford to pay for childcare. So it really is, it's a really tough egg to crack, honestly. So we've been in discussions with some childcare experts in the county, and we actually learned that over in the Kalamazoo area, there is a successful registered apprenticeship program in childcare. So we're looking at using that program as an intermediary and launching a pilot hopefully early next year. And it's really focusing around the Child Development Certificate, or the Child Development Associate Certificate, the CDA certificate. So we already have some training providers within the county that offer that. So we're hoping that, creating it into a career pathway will become more appealing. Also, that mandatory wage bump, we hope that also makes it more appealing. And, so that's on the apprentice side, but on the company side, we really hope that through the funding, we can offset the costs. We can braid SAE with quite a few other funding sources. So, companies, not just childcare companies, but companies do have the opportunity to really offset a significant portion of the costs associated with the training of the registered apprenticeship program. So we're hoping, especially in the childcare industry, that we can really break into that and just help move the needle, because it is such a challenging issue within our county, but I know that's not unique, that is across the state.
Excellent. Thank you. No, absolutely. And that's great that, there's some existing models across the state to pull some promising practices from as well. So you spoke a little bit about, as a recruitment and development tool with registered apprenticeship, and Cheryl, that's actually one of the questions I kind of wanted to ask you. Working a lot with apprenticeship readiness and pre-apprenticeship, could you talk a little bit about your work and WDI's work with that, and kind of getting folks into the pipeline, even to apprenticeship and then through?
Sure. One of the keys for us early on was working with the building trades to develop a program that would help feed into that pipeline of talent. About 7 years ago, there were a lot of building projects going on in Detroit, and a lot of the revitalization in this area continues. But one of the concerns is that people in the community didn't have the skill set to even consider the building trades as a career pathway. And that was a real concern, which led to the creation of the Access for All program and really strengthening that relationship with the building trades. Because with any industry, whether it's the building trades or childcare or manufacturing, it really has to start with having the industry stakeholders, the employers, the apprenticeship directors at the table to help determine what that candidate should look like, what kind of training is most valuable, what kind of credentials would be helpful. So, we can develop programs all day long, but if it doesn't include the stakeholders as part of that process, then, we're not developing effective candidates or viable candidates for that particular industry. So that was really key for us. And as we've continued to grow and expand the program, that industry input is really critical for us. And periodically, we will bring everybody together and have them look at the curriculum, the credentials, the recruitment process to tell us if we're still on target. If I like the fact that our partners are brutally honest. So if something is not working, but that feedback is very helpful. Otherwise, we're just we're not meeting the need of the end user, and that means we're also doing a disservice to job seekers if we're not preparing them for the industry. And if it's not a good fit, then we need to be able to refer them back through Michigan Works or other workforce development partners where they can continue to look at occupations that may be a better fit for them. So that partnership with the employers and the apprenticeship schools has really been key for us in developing the program. And, so as we looked at applying for the SAE, that was the next logical step for us to continue building on that foundation and just bring more partners to the table for what is now a statewide collaborative.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Cheryl. That's perfect. That's great comments, and actually leads again into speaking of that end user and the employers and making that match happen. Bill, from a industry association standpoint, and then bringing together your RIC partners with the MWAs and the secondary, post-secondary. Could you speak a little bit, as a representative for kind of those end users, the employers, but then also your work and what your RIC is doing, especially since you're focused only on youth, kind of an interesting aspect to that as well.
Yeah, certainly. So JAM has been doing registered apprenticeship now since our first class and our first apprenticeship registration was back in April of 2005. So we really worked to pull together folks in the greater Jackson region, so Jackson County and the surrounding counties primarily, and built out an adult apprenticeship program and started working on youth career exploration and skill building, but it wasn't really tied to apprenticeship. And what we found as we were bringing companies to the table, just like everybody else that starts this journey, is a lot of companies in our region didn't understand what registered apprenticeship really was, or they had certain ideas of what it was and myths about it that they believed. But as we worked through the process, it became clearer to us and to them, and it's really all about them. The registered apprenticeship was the ideal solution for their training needs and transfer of knowledge from their existing employees to the next generation. And so it's sort of a logical sort of progression for us as we moved into school to registered apprenticeship just within Jackson County, to then start looking at, when this grant opportunity came along, we were already having conversations about the need for a larger expanded sort of presence and doing work on a broader basis. And we have been partnering with Michigan Works Southeast for a very long time. They actually are fundamental to our apprenticeship program, even getting launched back in originally. So it made sense to bring those partners to the table and reach out to additional partners beyond just the Jackson County and even Lenawee and Hillsdale County to start having conversations about youth apprenticeship in particular, because it really, you know, in our area, we have a lot of folks that are doing registered apprenticeship or non-registered apprenticeship, and then we've got colleges that are doing training. Everybody's kind of doing a decent job of filling those needs, but on the youth side, it's been disconnected. So that's really where we're focused now, is getting it embedded into the systems at the K-12 level, starting at the high school level, if you will, and with the CPIDs and the career tech ed programs, reaching down into the 9th and 10th grade with sort of formalized pre-apprenticeship, and then going into the middle schools and turning everything that we've been doing for youth career exploration and skill building into formalized youth, pre-apprenticeship, youth apprenticeship to registered apprenticeship, and having it really seamlessly. The stuff you're doing down there in the 8th and 9th grade is really foundational to the next step, and it starts to actually count. The stuff that you're doing, once you hit age 16, we can put you on a rocket ship. And so it's been we're only in the beginning stages in a sense of it. We are at the point where we're registering the competency-based apprenticeships after having worked with the area career tech ed programs to really do a deep dive into what they do on the classroom side and the work-based learning components that they have, and aligning that to the registered apprenticeship, and then taking that back out to employers and saying, does this cover all the bases? Is there anything missing? And so we're now at the point where we've developed these competency-based apprenticeship models. And in the past, we've only done time-based and a little bit of hybrid, but it really makes sense to move into the competency-based model for what we're doing with these programs. And that's kind of the wave of the future. And it's even going to impact our adult programs as we go forward.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. And I like the idea of putting folks on a rocket ship. That sounds exciting. That would get me into apprenticeship. So, you also mentioned, thank you so much, Deb. Have a great rest of your day and a great weekend. Speaking of seamless transitions too, I was going to say, I think, everybody's got this down, and you're so knowledgeable and have so much great information. Everybody's comments just kind of lead one into the other. So the next time we do a panel like this, I'm just going to get out of the way and let you guys have the whole time. But on that note, any questions from the chat or any questions from the audience? I don't know. I think you can chime in on your mics, but maybe the chat is easiest. But yeah, any questions for our panel or any of the topics today? Or I'll pick on Steve since he does have a microphone. Any questions, Steve, as our moderator?
I do not. I think it's fantastic to hear what is happening around the state. And for a long time, working with apprenticeships myself, it was not always the easiest road when you got out of certain segments within the state of Michigan. But to see representatives from the Upper Peninsula and working with the Northwest and Northeast at different times, with Natasha on quite a few different ones, to see the growth of these programs is phenomenal. And it's due all to the not just the people on this panel, and you, Callan, and Scott as well with the state and all the other initiatives. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Russ's work as well. So it's just it's uplifting to see this the apprenticeship actually coming to life as a lot of us envisioned it would many years ago. So if there are no questions, I would like to thank everyone, thank all the panelists, Thank you, Callan, for pulling this together. We do have a break. I believe it's a lunch break till our next session, which is the President's Forum at 12:30 today. So you can log in and listen to the different community college presidents. Hopefully there's no softball questions and people hammering pretty good. So it's just fun to sit back and watch when that happens. So have a blessed rest of your day, everyone. And thank you for attending.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. It was good to see everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.